welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 85. Hope you enjoyed and watching and hearing those scenes from full time at Brentford. Tonight we're going to analyse the match and player performance from Friday night's 1-1 draw at Brentford, talk about the potential FA Cup draw, have the latest in the Rumour transfer room, and we'll take some of your questions and look ahead to Brentford again. Of course, I can't do this by myself, and I'm joined by my two loyal midfield generals, also known as our Director of Football, Chris Tyler, and facing and finishing and making a late fitness test, we have Nocky, our club captain. Tyler, we had a little trip down to the capital on Friday night. I travelled down in luxury, thank you very much, sir.
How about that?
And it finished Brentford 1, Wolves 1. Your take on Wolves being in the hat and that performance, please.
I'm normally a miserable sod, but I was absolutely delighted. I think you said it to me halfway through the game. We've talked about it a week or two ago. There's just something building, isn't there? And you can't always put your finger on it, but it felt like a victory. I'm sure we'll come on to talk about the decision shortly, but I just want to talk about the players really and how hard they worked and the effort they put in, the quality that they showed. I was delighted, but yeah, we had a great time, Ryan, me, my lad and yourself. And normally the getting there and back and having a laugh and the banter's the best bit, but I actually really enjoyed watching Wolves play that football match. And it made me eat my words because I've been on here, like, Nocky, as I'm sure would admit, we've been critical, we've questioned whether he's the right man for the job, but those players are playing for him. And you can talk about decisions, you can talk about quality, you can talk about a lot of things with football, but those players are playing for Gary O'Neill. And when they scored the goal right in front of us, you could see what it meant to them all. And I haven't seen that for such a long time, and the away end was buzzing. My lad said, he's not been to loads and loads of giveaway games, but he said what the atmosphere was amazing, and the noise in that away end was tremendous. For an FA Cup third round on a Friday night, to sell out and to make the noise, and for them to then repay back the fans, I thought was tremendous. And the goal, I must have watched it back 100 times, and I'll probably watch it 100 more. It was just beautiful. And I think, to be honest, we probably could have nicked it. We could have won it if we're being greedy. So Brentford, admittedly, were desperate. They were horrendous. Arguably, probably as bad as Bournemouth were last season when they came to Molineux. Really poor team, just lacking in confidence. But I thought we popped it around nicely. Tommy Doyle, I could dedicate the whole hour to, because he had that midfield on his own and he was stupendous. I haven't got enough positive things to say, which for me is a bit of an upturn, but I was just proud. And I tweeted after the game how proud I was. And I think that was the main feeling, just pride at the effort they put in. They repaid the fans and fair play to them.
A great start to the show, yeah, Tyler, thank you. Nocky following in from that, and that's a great start from Tyler, by the way.
I've had a bottle of rosé, by the way, so if that's made me a bit more...
we need to get you some more delivered, mate. Let's get some Wolves Report special brew delivered down. Nocky, before the game, we all said the last thing that we need is a draw. That's the last thing that we want. But the way a team plays for over 80 minutes with 10 men and a goal down, and they still don't lose the game via a brilliant goal and lots of heart. And as Tyler said, Brentford, when Wolves equalised, Brentford were wobbling. I know Wolves tucked off a little bit at the end. We have what we hold what we have, but Wolves were pushing shortly after they equalised. But Nocky, as Tyler said, you've got to be proud of that 1-1 draw after that.
I don't think I need to comment on it. I think just seeing Tyler as excited as he is has kind of captured the feeling in the crowd. To be honest, it was. I thought it was a really intelligent performance, especially when going down to 10 men. Gary O'Neill had a bit of a reshuffle. We sat a little bit deeper. We soaked the pressure up, and then we started to grow into the game as it progressed. And I don't really remember them creating too many chances. It was a real disciplined, intelligent performance, and I think we probably deserve to win it. Look, I think if it's 11 against 11, it's another 4-1 for me, because I felt that we looked a really good, strong, organised team. They looked like a team who was struggling, who were losing games, and didn't really want to be there. But just touching on what Chris said, really, we're not, we're realistic Wolves supporters. We know where we are. We know the size of the club, and we know that we're never going to be a team who's running in the Champions League, and we're probably not going to see a trophy in our lifetime. We know that, but we don't expect that. What we want to see is effort, work rate, heart, and kind of our own passions reflected back at us. And I think that's something that we're seeing from the team now. And I agree completely with Chris. They're buying into it. We've cleared out the players who didn't buy into it, and there's a real feel-good factor. And our away fans have usually been pretty good, but over the last couple of seasons, it's just been noticeably quieter. I think we've lost a few songs, and maybe the ambition that was there isn't there anymore. That's how it kind of feels like. But they were singing for 90 minutes. It was solid all the way through. It's been like it for the last couple of games now, and you feel like we're all moving in the right direction, and we're all moving in the same direction. And the goal is utterly fabulous. Like Chris, I've watched it 100 times, and you watch it with the volume up because you can hear the ball hitting the net, and there's no greater sound in the world than that. It was a real moment to be proud, I think, and it almost feels better than winning it in a strange way, because we could have gone there, rolled them over 2 or 3-0, and it almost would have been expected with the run of form they're in. But to see them dig in and fight and feel like they're fighting for the supporters, it gives you a little bit more of a lift than actually winning in a weird sort of way. It was just a really good day, and a real honest performance from a team of players that you feel like all want to be wearing that shirt. They all want to play for the club, and they want to represent the supporters in the way they have, and we're applying in kind at the minute.
Well, with the 1-1 draw as well, Nocky, we wouldn't have wanted it at the time, and we'll talk about this when we've finished reviewing the game, but it's set up to be one of the most anticipated replays with what's on offer, what we've all talked about, what we've all wanted. Will we feel like that in a few weeks? We might not feel like it after the Brentford replay, but we'll come on to that in a bit. Tyler, just going back into the match, the main talking point after about 8.5, 9 minutes, João Gomez flies in with them. I don't think it's with malice. I just think it's with a lot of aggression. It's mistimed. He's caught his man. He's injured the player. He's gone off, and he's dropped the red card. I don't know. Nocky's got some feelings on this as well, but he's just catching his breath from another wonderful talk about Wolves. But Tyler, I'd just love to get your take on the sending off.
I don't know. For me, it isn't a red card. I sort of understand it to a point, but it's what I've talked about on here before. If there's VAR in the stadium, he doesn't need to rush and give the red card. They're not going to overturn it because we've talked about clear and obvious, because it's not a clear and obvious error, but it's a yellow card challenge, isn't it? For me, there's no malice, there's no intent. He's just late and he's just caught him. And it's a nasty one as a pro. And you could tell Gomez knew it was a nasty one because it's on the Achilles. And, players don't like that, do you? They're in the players' union. You don't want to catch your fellow pro on the Achilles. So I sort of get why it's a red, but for me, it's not. It's a yellow card, and you get on with the game. To then see what the Brentford player did to Doyle, that's where I start to get frustrated again, because it's a worse offence than what Gomez has done, and it's a throw into Brentford. So it's what we've talked about a million times. There's no consistency. You feel cheated as a fan. In the ground, the experience is horrendous because you've got no idea what's going on. And then Semedo's grabbed by the throat, and again, Semedo gets a yellow card. I mean, I don't know how much longer we can keep going on about it, to be honest, without insanity. But if Gomez is a red card, then Brentford should have 9 men to finish the game with, and they finished it with 11. So where's the consistency would be my challenge on that one.
Nocky, as Gary O'Neill said afterwards, he said because of VAR, in his view, not being used correctly, in important games coming up, Brentford are going to have all their players, but we're going to be missing one of our key players for 3 games. So again, the officials for me have not got it right. I'm with Tyler. I understand why the first one is potentially a red, but how many times have you seen that given as a yellow? Do you know what I mean? We saw a tackle similar, I think Paul Pogba maybe on Ruben Neves when Man United scored in the build-up to a goal. A tackle similar that was mistimed and late, and it wasn't even given as a free kick. So again, it's the consistency, and it's this ruling for me, Nocky, when they are desperate not to try and remanage the game or re-officiate the game. They're trying to back the official, but then what's the point of VAR? So the idea should be to come to the correct decision, not to back your colleagues. Okay.
VAR was almost redundant in that game because it just went with the referee's decision. And look, is it a clear and obvious error? No, because the studs are up and he has raked his down the back of the leg. So in essence, it could be a red card. I think it's harsh. I don't think it needs to be a red card. I think there has to be some consideration into the intent, the position of the player, who he's not. It's not nasty. It's not aggressive. It's an attempt to get the ball. He's mistimed it and he's caught him. But okay, if you send him off, they're never going to overrule it. It's not a clear and obvious error, and there's justification for sending him off, which is why Wolves probably haven't appealed the decision. But it's the consistency element, as Chris touched on. If you're going to send him off, I'm comfortable with it, but you have to send off the player who stamps on Tommy Doyle, because I think it's worse. I think the ball's not there to be.
It was high, wasn't it? And we'll put it like this, guys. Let me just ask you both this question. Let's say the official books João Gomez and it goes for a review. Is he going to get sent over to the monitor to send him off?
No, because they didn't interfere. Right. But they didn't interfere with any decision, did they? They just let the referee go with it. And I think if you're VAR, you've got to use your brain a little bit, and you've got to think, well, they've just sent him off for a very similar tackle. Let's at least get the referee to go and have a look at it, because otherwise there's going to be a bit of criticism that two identical tackles and one's has been punished and one's been ignored. So it's just the consistency element. I mean, you know my feelings on VAR. I don't think it's adding anything to the game. I think it's making the game worse.
It's giving plenty of podcast content.
It is, but it's affecting people's enjoyment. The ball hits the back of the net. You're instantly having that spontaneous moment, and then you're thinking, right, who handballed it? Who was offside? Who was interfering with play? And you're waiting for it to be disallowed. And I just think it's almost ruining the event. I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of Wolves fans probably turned off after that red card and the goal, because you're thinking, what's the point? Where do we go from here? So it's not a poor decision, the red card. I can see why he's given it. And if it was the other way around, you'd be thinking, studs up, potentially it could be a red card. I don't think it needed to be, but there is justification for it. But get that second decision right, follow on, be consistent, and he hasn't been.
But like I said, after 9 minutes, he's desperate to get that red card out. He's desperate to do it.
Yeah, I was more annoyed by the shape of the card, to be honest.
I know it's for colourblind people, but that brings me on to the Sunderland Newcastle game. There was no VAR, and what a spectacle that was!
What a game that was! What a game!
I'm sorry, but how much better was it because there was no VAR? They'd have been looking at every decision in that game. Yeah. Every single one. The one where Isaac was through and the defender barged him, the penalty. They'd have looked at everything. And it was so refreshing to watch a game of football without VAR ruining it.
But it's in the detriment of football. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Calvert-Lewin red card. And, I know we're not here to talk about Everton or anyone else.
It's been rescinded now.
Yeah, but how do you... But no decision should ever be rescinded. It should never be rescinded. Because what you're saying is you've got the referees made the decision.
Wrong.
You've got the VAR. You've got the assistant VAR.
Wrong.
All of them have got it wrong. And then it has to go to an additional panel of people to say you've cocked that up. I mean, how can it ever get to that point? And that just shows all the failings of the system.
That's hard to understand. Great point, Knocker.
It's just bizarre. And I think, the Wolves one's not going to get overturned because Gomez was studs up. Whichever way you look at it, now in this day and age of football, you're always running a risk if you're going in with your studs in that kind of position. And although I don't think it was, I can understand why it was. So it's not the initial tackle that I think everyone's frustrated about. It's the lack of consistency, because you're doing that one, you've got to give the other one as well. And to grab Semedo around the throat, it's very similar to the headbutt on Max Kilman that wasn't given. Was it too soft? Did he not strangle him? Did he not go pink in the face, or did he not turn blue?
Did Semedo not go down? And this is my dad was talking about this as well. Is that we're almost now encouraging cheating or encouraging theatrics, because if you don't show that you've been kicked or punched or hit, you aren't getting the correct decision. And because the referees or VAR aren't picking up on that, well, you want the correct decision. So therefore, we saw it with Bruno Fernandes last night. I mean, I know it was a penalty. The defender shouldn't have thrown himself in, but he's thrown himself down like he's been shot.
But he's been caught on the ankle, Ryan, and he's holding his shin. Yeah. It's cheating.
But we've got into this habit now.
How are they not seeing it? I don't understand. I don't get it.
But we're in a habit now that all contact is a foul.
And it
isn't.
It's
all
so
contact
wrong. Football is a contact
It's not
sport.
a foul. The penalty on Fernandes, yes, there's contact, but that's also simulation because he doesn't need to go to ground. And if Kilman, when he's headbutted, hits to the floor, it's a red card. If Semedo hits the floor, rolling around, hold his neck, it's a red card. So what's the point of VAR? Because when the referee goes over to the monitor, there's going to be a slow motion replay, first and foremost. There'll be a freeze frame of the initial contact. You slow that down, it has to be a penalty. It has to be a red card,
as well.
That's where it's wrong.
Let's be really clear as well. They never send the official over unless they're convinced he's going to change his mind. And there doesn't seem to be there's very few examples of when he's gone, actually, I'm going to stick my original decision. They're still re-refereeing it because you're getting it from someone else's point of view. So for me,
so why send him?
So why not?
They're not even sending him anymore.
And unless it's clear and obvious, unless someone's chinned someone or proper nutted them without VAR, why shouldn't, if it's a red card, they go over and saying we think this is a red, go over? What's the harm in that?
But when did you last see on highlights or anything a referee go to a monitor? It's been weeks and weeks. They're not even going to the monitors anymore. They're not even saying, "Oh, you might just want to double check that one, pal." They're not doing it. They're not getting, like Knocker said, they're not getting involved with the decisions.
It's a shambles.
What's the point of VAR then if they're not going to get involved?
It's getting. This is what I mean. Knocker's right. It's getting. When Howard Webb came in, I think we all thought it would probably get better. It's got a lot worse.
The use of the technology and the decision making for me has deteriorated. We'll try and balance it up here, Tyler, because we talked about this. Players kicking the ball away, getting a booking. It is a fantastic ball. There was nothing more infuriating than years gone by and seeing teams and players doing it. Fantastic. And when your own player does it, it's mad. But you know the rules. Being abusive to the referee, this doesn't get picked up enough. But when a player's in a referee's face, he should be booked. Have some more respect. So these things, I think they are doing well. So I'm just trying to balance the books for how poor VAR is.
But even that's not consistent, though, is it?
But it's better, Knocker. It's better than it was.
Yes, I'll agree. It's better, but it's not consistent. Every ball kicked away isn't a booking. Every abuse towards a referee isn't a yellow card.
But
so
it's a start of improving the game.
It is a start, but this isn't a new game. These aren't new systems we've brought in. The game's over 100 years old, and we still can't make a decision that we're going to book everyone who does something naughty. If you kick a ball away, it's a booking. If you're abuses the referee, it's a yellow card, and we shouldn't be in a position where we're congratulating them for enforcing the rules 40 or 50% of the time. That's not credit.
You are
start
right,
doing it properly.
My point was to try and balance it up instead of trying to rip referees. My point was those rules are although they're not fully enforced. You are correct. They are an improvement to our game because those things for me are. I don't want to see players swearing at the referees in their faces, shouting abuse. I think Louis Dunk said something and he got sent off for it. But the kicking the ball away is a definite start in the right direction. You are listening and watching episode 85 of the Wolves Report with Club Captain Mark Knock, Director of Football Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. Had to take a breath then. I couldn't get it.
Demoted you.
Talking about a negative part of the game. Let's move on to a positive. Tyler, you were there. Knocker, you've seen it, but I want to get your take on the goal, Tyler. There's a guy behind that wasn't particularly happy with the short corner. I don't think he was particularly happy with Nelson Semedo either. But
I don't think he was happy with the fat lot in life, to be honest.
He wasn't happy with the short corner, but it turned out to be one of the best short corner routines Wolves have ever taken. So, talk us through that finish.
You just don't see enough for those as Wolves fans for whatever reason do it. Yeah, the guy behind us was slating Semedo for the whole game, and then the short corner was played, and I think he said something like, "Don't you even think about doing it?" And then bang, 1-1. The best bit for me was I think they obviously tried to work it to set Doyle on his right.
Yeah, like a Neves-esque
sort
of one.
Wasn't perfect. The fact is then had the know-how just to flick it to his left. What a hit. You could hear the noise, and it had a bit of the Nenad Milias about it, didn't it? His left foot. And I was very critical of Tommy Doyle after the Sheffield United away game. We went to that game, and the game passed him by, and he got outdone. He was outfought. I thought on Friday night he was absolutely outstanding. He basically played on centre midfield on his own, with a bit of help from Sarabia and Bellegarde and Tota Gomez now and again. I haven't got enough positive words about that performance. And, he steps in for Mario now for 2 games, and he's been outstanding in both of them.
Probably Wolves'
and
best player over those 2 games.
Yeah, I think he has been. He's been my man of the match those 2 games. And he deserved that goal. I thought he was brilliant. And if you're talking about getting a player like that for less than £5 million,
that's ridiculous.
When you sold Nunes for 50 plus,
Nocky,
daylight robbery.
As Tyler said, we don't see many Wolves screamers. We've seen some good goals this year, but a proper drop of the shoulder and an absolute thumper into the cap flap. It's true. Honestly, I was with Tyler, and when someone hits a shot and you're just expecting it to go wide, nobody believed. I was on his left, and he's hit it, and then there's absolute chaos. Knocker, how did it look for you when you watched it live?
It was just crisp. It was just such a crisp strike. It reminded me of, I don't know if you remember it, but Jay Bothroyd at Leeds.
Yeah, the rocket.
I don't know if it was as clean as that, but that's got that kind of hit about it.
It was the same angle. He hit a left footer that just cut across the keeper. I mean, that's his weaker foot. Let's not forget. He's a player on the right foot. To hit a strike like that, and it's one of them that the keeper's so far away from it because it's that hard and it's that angled. And
he looked like he dived after
it. Yeah, he just couldn't. He was nowhere near it, and it's one of them that he's just hit it, and it's just perfect. And he hit a very similar one for Sheffield United with his right foot. And that, was an absolute screamer as well. But you can tell he's come from City, can't you? Because he's got that real quality about him. He's always seems to have time on the ball. He's intelligent. He plays players, and he doesn't play the pass unless he needs to play it. There's a direction to everything he's doing, and there's a purpose behind it. And like you say, you've got no Gomez, you've got no Lamina. He's running that midfield. You're putting stopgaps in around him to try and support him, but predominantly he's running your engine room for you. And he's got another 3 games at least now where he's going to be back in the team, and I've got a feeling Gomez is going to struggle to get back in because this kid seems to be moving on to a new level now. He's obviously settled. He's getting game time. He feels comfortable, and he's not just playing, he's affecting the game now. And, if you've got a midfielder who can hit his shots like that and has the wherewithal to cut inside, because how many players would have just slashed at it with their right foot because they were being closed down?
It's just that touch again and gone back to the wing back.
Yeah, absolutely. But that touch inside, just to give himself the angle, brings him closer to goal, and just absolutely whampoon one like that into the top corner. It's just it's a thunderous goal, and
I don't even know what that means. But it sounds good.
It was a thing of beauty, and the fact we started scoring from corners is almost a miracle in itself as well, because it's something we haven't really done for the last 30 years. So we're looking dangerous from set pieces. We've got midfielders scoring goals, and we've got strikers scoring goals, and defenders who scored 2 in the last game. It feels like it's all piecing together.
Great stuff. Moving on to the team performance, Tyler. After 8 or 9 minutes, we'd have all been forgiven for expecting Jose Sá was going to get an absolute pumping and a proper workout. But he didn't actually have that too much to do in the end. And what he did, I thought he did okay.
Yeah, I touched upon it. I think there is a bit about Brentford being absolutely desperate. I mean, they were one of the poorest sides I can remember seeing. They're obviously low on confidence. I think they'd gone 7 or 8 without a win. So it did play into our hands. But he had to make a save first half and then 1 second half. But apart from that, I don't remember him having to do too much. And a bit of shit. Oh, it's not 9 o'clock, is it? A bit of housery at the end.
That was great at the end.
And Collins having to drag him away was brilliant, wasn't it? And, Ollie Watkins, I think, had a bit of stick at that end, and Sars had the same. And if you're going to give it out,
absolutely. If you're going to give it out a bit of banter, you've got to be able to take a bit of banter back. Those are the absolute rules.
Exactly.
Nocky, tell me about the back 3. Max Kilman, Santiago Bueno, who I thought sat in seamlessly for Dawson again, and Tyler's favourite, Toti Gomez. Tell me about the back 3.
Comfortable, really. I mean, I think Bueno, in my head, it feels like the long-term solution for Dawson when he steps away. They were solid. I don't think they were really tested. I think we were very controlled in how we played. The goal we conceded was ugly. I don't think Morpay should be allowed to get a strike in from there, but that can happen when the ball's bouncing around your area. I don't think anyone stood out, but I don't think anyone was particularly tested. It was organised.
Mm-hmm.
It was disciplined. The positional sense was good. I think we were more focused on probably Bueno than anyone else because we know what the others can do, and he looks like he's starting to grow into games a little bit more now. It took him a bit of time to get up to the pace of the Premier League and Premier League football, and now he's he feels like he's got a better understanding of the requirements. And I think as a unit, they were relatively solid, and we didn't look like we were going to concede.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I thought Max didn't have to do anything. I didn't think Totti was worked. I think, as always, Totti's very good at defending. Sometimes a little bit loose in possession, but without the ball, the way he manages opponents, I think he does that really well. But just touching on Santiago Bueno there, the kindest thing I could say in the last few games is I've not really noticed him, because he doesn't really give the ball away. He wins his headers. He's not spectacular. He's comfortable left and right, and he looks like a really good for £7.5 million. He looks. I mean, I know. We talked about this in the car. Tyler's talked about if his run of form continues, then do you move Santiago Bueno to the right, Max Kilman to the left, and Dawson in the middle? I think at the moment that'll be a bit harsh on Totti, but it's certainly an option if Totti's form drops again like it did a couple of weeks ago. Tyler, tell me about Nelson Semedo and Matt Doherty.
Oh, can I talk about how much you were slagging off Doherty an hour before kickoff, or do you want me to talk about his actual performance on the game?
What I said was,
how's that bus feeling, son?
Terrible, absolutely terrible. What I said was, I had a pre-match concern of Matt Doherty playing left wing back, because I witnessed what happened at Fulham when Totti and Matt Doherty were next to each other, and it was disgusting. And that was my main concern. And luckily, like many times, for the 415,000th time this season, I've been proven wrong. Thank you, Tyler.
I thought Doherty was excellent, to be fair.
In the air.
He won every single header from goal kicks. He just did a job, didn't he? But he was never going to sort of be the overlapping left wing back that you want an Aït-Nouri or a Bueno to be. But I thought
holding wing back.
he almost was, but he had a bit of nous, and he was clever, and do you know what I mean? And that you can criticise him, and people do, but he's got a lot of Premier League experience.
And
sometimes you can't buy that. And those goal kicks from Sarr, it's basic football. He won every single header Doherty did. So for that, I commend him. Semedo, again, I'm sort of 50-50 with him. He doesn't get the plaudits sometimes he deserves. And I think on the flip side, sometimes he gets treated a bit harshly. I thought he was solid. I thought they both did well, because their best player, is it Lewis Potter, was up against him.
Handful, yeah.
Didn't really impact the game too well. I think they're both at least a 7 out of 10. I thought they both did a very good job.
Just one thing you mentioned there, when Matt Doherty and played under Nuno when we were flying under wing backs in the Premier League, that out ball to that side of the pitch to Dendoncker and Doherty, Wolves won almost every header. They were getting up the pitch and gaining territory. And if Matt Doherty there, he wins that again and again and again. And I've noticed as well recently, we haven't played as many short goal kicks now. We're prepared to go long. And if you've got Doherty in the team, he's going to beat almost every wide player in the air when he's faced up with them. So if it means going long and winning the flick on and gaining some territorial advantage, I'm all for it. So yeah, I agree with you. Your ratings there. I'd say they're both solid in different areas. Nocky moving to the centre midfield. We've talked about Tommy Doyle. So give us a little bit more on Tommy Doyle, and then we've got to talk about João Gomes.
I don't think you can really comment on João Gomes. The game was very young when he did what he did. He's his usual self, isn't he? He's full of energy, he's full of work rate. We're going to miss him for 3 games. Hopefully, with the emergence of Tommy Doyle, we're not going to miss him too much. The anticipation is probably going to be that Lemina's going to be back sooner rather than later, you would expect. So I think he was, what was he on, 9 minutes? He was fine till then, but a rash tackle, a silly red card, really. As we've said, it's probably not a red card, but if you're flying like that, you run the risk, and that's something that's going to be in his game. He's always going to pick up bookings, and he's always going to pick up red cards because he plays right on the edge. In terms of Doyle, I think we've waxed lyrical about him. He was superb. To lose his midfield partner and put in a performance like that, and to be so full of energy and to run the midfield against some big units is a hell of an achievement. But he always had space. He always had time on the ball. I don't remember him giving it away. He seemed to be one step ahead of everybody, and it was just a very intelligent, consistent, mature performance.
Considering he was playing 1-on-3.
Considering he was playing 1-on-3, yeah, but he was so... He never panicked. There doesn't seem to be any panic in him, and he's just got this level of just composure about him that you don't see in too many players, especially of his age. I mean, we've had it with your Martinios who've been around the block a little bit, but for a player of his age to always have time on the ball and always seem to receive it in space, it's really impressive. So if we can get that deal done now, I'll get it done now, because this kid's going to be he's going to be a very big player.
You are listening and watching episode 85 of the Wolves Report. As always, the show is sent out live. You can now comment. We can get your screens on, your messages on from Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So if you've got any comments, questions, we'll do our most best to get them up on and you'll be able to see them obviously on the video version of the show. Finishing off the players review, Tyler, moving on to the front three of Pablo Sarabia, Jean-Oigna Bellegarde, and Matheus Cunha.
Cunha's just one off Doyle for me. Absolutely outstanding again. Yeah. Again, I'm running out of things to say about him because every week he's getting better, fitter.
Looks like a £45 million footballer.
That run, I mean, the last 10 minutes, that he looked like he was blown out of his backside, and then he's just picked the ball up. He's decided to beat three people. I mean, the guy just oozes quality and class. And I want a bit of a mention for Sarabia, because I know, again, he splits opinion and, he divides the fans. It wasn't a game for him. But what I want to say is the effort he put in, the closing down, he worked hard. And I think that was potentially Bellegarde's best game for Wolves to a point, because, again, the same reasons. He worked so hard, but then also had the quality when the ball came to him. He could keep it. He retained it. He could buy us time. He bought us minutes. I thought they were outstanding. And we were sort of talking, weren't we, Ryan, after about an hour, does he bring Neto on? Who's it going to be for? The gamble would have been for Sarabia, and it's exactly what he did. So
we kind of expected Joe Hodge, didn't we? We thought give the midfield balance and then tuck in.
And then try and bring Neto on. But he just went for it. So fair play to O'Neill. And I think you said, Neto looked like he'd never been away. I mean, his first touch was disgusting, wasn't it? My lad's been doing it all week, that little flippy flappy, whatever.
Mate, I tweeted about it, the noise that you made when he did that flip flap. Honestly, it's one of the most purest noises I've ever heard in my life. It was just, I mean, if I'm saying Tyler's joy noise, it's giving all the wrong signals out. But honestly, that's the happiest noise I think I've ever heard Tyler make. But yeah, just talking about.
And I just think he'll come in and replace Wang, won't he? We're worried about Wang and the goal input, and rightly so. But I'm excited to see a front three of Cunha, Bellegarde, and Neto, because that's
pure. That is.
What about Sarabia?
Oh shit!
But it's options, though, isn't it? We've finally got.
Tyler's cheated on Sarabia
in the attacking area.
How would you Wolves report? Tyler's cheated on Sarabia. Fantastic.
I'll ask you one, Ryan. How would you rate Gary O'Neill's performance in that one?
In that game, I thought I don't think he could have gone any better. The bravery to leave Tommy Doyle sitting on his own with Bellegarde dropping in and Cunha dropping in, and then to alternate in that. The bravery to carry on doing that and have one centre midfielder for 80 minutes. Most of all would said that was lunacy. But then to have the bravery to take Sarabia off, technical, wonderful, but we needed the pace. And Neto scared them to death. So his bravery and games management, Tyler said, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. A man down, a goal down. He's brave, and Wolves deserve something out of that game. And I know you don't always get what you deserve, but great question, Knocker. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I agree.
Thank you. I hope you're taking over the questions then. I don't know what to do. I wasn't expecting that.
I'm hanging my mic up now.
Lucky, would you say that Gary O'Neill used his brain in that game?
He's grown one. Yes, he's grown one now. He obviously listened to me comments, and he's no. Look, I think I had serious doubts about him. As I said before, I thought we were waving the white flag when he came in. We were told he was a student of the game. I didn't see that. I thought he was a bit of a moron. In all honesty, I didn't see anything that was going to win me round. And now I've realised it's probably me that was the moron, because the guy has got tactical nous. He's got
brilliant.
He's got he knows what he's doing. And I think we had Lopetegui. We were talking about Lopetegui being a world class manager, which he got us out of the Brown stuff and did it superbly. I'm not sure many other managers would have. But this guy's fully invested in Wolverhampton Wanderers. He's invested in what we're doing, and he's improved the players, and he's brought everyone closer together. And he's a really intelligent guy. He's a really intelligent guy, and I'm absolutely delighted to be proved wrong with him.
Great stuff there. Of course, moving on from the game, it's on a replay, which is next week. And if Wolves are successful in that replay, they'll be heading a little trip down the road to our old neighbours, West Bromwich Albion. Now, the group chats on the cup draw 5 minutes before that kickoff went mental. There's DMs for tickets. There's all kinds of things. People, honestly, if Wolves can get this over the line, I mean, it'd be such the most old Wolves things to do to go out on penalties to Brentford and miss that opportunity. But Brentford have got Nottingham Forest that weekend on the Saturday. Wolves don't play till the Monday. So are Brentford, with already a shortened squad, going to be as interested as they were in the home game? I don't know. That's the question. I don't know. But that cup draw, Nocky, I know that's... I mean, it's one for any Wolves fan, but I know your old boy will be absolutely beating his chest at the opportunity of going to the Hawthorns.
Oh, his dad's eating iron bars at the minute. He's that wound up for it. I mean, I was there last time we beat them. We beat them 4-2. Ewan Roberts with a hat trick. I think that was 27 years ago. And let's face it, we both of us, ourselves and the Albion, have been pants for most of that time, haven't we? Those 27 years, and we still haven't beaten them. We come close with Jamie O'Hara's strike, and we still couldn't beat them. I just love if we had our moment and we went there and we absolutely spanked them. It'd be incredible.
I'd just be happy to beat them, to be honest, Nocky. I mean, the spanking would be great, but I'd just be happy to beat them.
Look, I'd love to think we can go there and roll them over. It'd be a wonderful thing. It's going to be a local derby. I went for the under-23s last season, and that was absolutely poisonous. They were invading the pitch when they scored. Incredible. It was one of the most ferocious atmospheres I've been in. That's an under-23s game. So if we get them in the fourth round of the FA Cup, you think it's probably going to be a night game for TV. The pubs are going to be full.
My betting Sunday at 12 o'clock.
It could
BBC.
Be. It's going to be horrible whenever
police will be terrified. They'll be terrified.
Yeah, but what an occasion it will be.
So nervous.
The incredible occasion.
Just Tyler, going on to one last thing about that potential tie. The away end, I believe, there holds 5,200. However, they're only obligated us to, I think it's 4,002 tickets in terms of their percentage. Are West Brom are in that much bother, then they'll sell the extra tickets because they want the end full and want the money? Or will they go, well, 4,000's enough? Or with police intervention, police may say you're only selling them your allocation.
Yeah, we'll call that one, won't they? You saw Newcastle could only get to Sunderland on an official club coach. They didn't let anyone travel independently, so I think the police will call that one. I'd be surprised if it's more than 4,200 or whatever it is. They won't give us the whole end. The police will just play it as safe as possible and limit the numbers as much as they can. And rightly so, because we've all been to these games and they are carnage, aren't they? They are chaos. Whether you like it or not, or whether that's your thing or not, they are carnage. So I'm with you, Ryan. I think it'll be the early kick-off, and I think the police will have a say in how many travel and how many don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how we'll feel at the end of it. Hopefully we feel like me and Nocky did coming out of Villa Park, because that's why you go to these games. For that moment you'll live forever. The limbs and the opportunity for limbs, and if it's going well, the songs in that game are... I miss Black Country derbies. And I actually like going to the Hawthorns more, because it's a long time ago, but to win in a local derby, as we experienced Nocky at Villa Park, as we did Tyler many times at St Andrews, there's no feeling like it. There's no feeling like it. So hopefully Wolves can get the business done. Regardless of whatever team Brentford put out, we've got to take it seriously. And regardless of who we've drawn, but it wouldn't have mattered. But now the incentive for Gary O'Neill and his players, because he'll see, the club will be aware of how big this is, and what an opportunity for him as a manager to change, or to right a wrong of history that's not been great on Wolves' favour for a long, long time. You're listening and watching episode 85 of the Wolves Report. Mark Knott, Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. We've analysed the Brentford game. We talked about the FA Cup draw. Moving on now into the transfer rumour mill. The two latest ones, Nocky, that have come up, seems to be some noise from West Ham about Max Kilman. Now, Wolves don't need to sell this window again. They can. I know that they've probably saved the best part of 150 grand a week with the 2 extra players they've loaned out, probably a little bit more than that. But Wolves don't need to sell. But is there a price if they come forward with Max Kilman that we just can't turn down?
I think everyone's got a price. I mean, there's talk of 40 million for me. That's
nowhere near enough.
That's an insulting offer. I'd want double that at this time of year because
Maguire was almost double that.
He was, yeah, but it's a window that people tend to panic in, and that's when you get ridiculous prices for players. In this window with the situation we're in, I think the risk we've got, and we've kind of spoke about this in the group chat, is that we're relatively comfortable. I mean, we probably need 2 wins or probably keep us in the league. So if we were going to sell, we may be in a position to do that. But for me, I'm not. If West Ham really want him, I'd be asking for 80 million. If I'm being honest, I don't think we get that for him. But we can ask
whatever we want. Quite often, it's us. I mean, going back as far as Robbie Keane, going back as far as Jolyon Lescott. We've been the team that's been like in the Championship and had our best players taken. Wolves don't need to sell. Max Kilman's under a long contract. I mean,
I don't think he goes this window. If I'm being honest,
Max doesn't strike me as someone that will throw his toys out. I think if he wanted to go, he'd be professional. He's captain as well, so I don't see. I think Max Kilman stays this window, and hopefully so. Tyler, the second one, an interesting one for yourself as well. There's been a bit of noise coming from Spain regarding Pablo Sarabia potentially having a move from there. Now, if you'd have asked us all probably a month ago, we'd have probably said, if Wolves can probably make a bit of money on that, that makes sense. But since he's coming to the team and he's getting a run, you'd have to say Wolves are a better side for it.
Yeah, you know my thoughts on him, but on the flip side to that, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go. He was a £5 million player. I'm still not fully convinced he's in Gary O'Neill's long-term plans. I think he wants pacey forwards. I think he's earned his place and he's kept it because of good performances. But, you know, if they come in with 10, 12, 15 million, there's an argument you take it, isn't there? It's profit on a player who's 31. His best days may be behind him. I love him, as you know, and I'm not saying I would sell him.
He's pure. There's no...
Depends what the motivations are. Like Knocker said, if we're happy just to sort of finish 10th or 12th and get over the line this season, then you can look to make money as a business. If you want to push on and have a cup run and get into Europe, you'd probably keep your assets and sell them in the summer. Totally depends on that. But I think the decisions will be made more from a business perspective than a football perspective.
It's an interesting one as well. I know we talked about pace, but for me, it's telling. He very rarely lasts 90 minutes. He's quite often the first one to be subbed. And he's the one that, instead of Bellegarde coming off, it was him that came off. And I think that's quite telling. So with a fully fit Pedro Neto, with a Hwang Chan firing, where's Pablo Sarabia in this starting 11?
But like Knocker's always said, it's a 16-player game now. It's not an 11-player game. You've got 5 substitutes and you need options. There's been talk about Danny Ings come in and people have said yes or no. But like Knocker said, it's a squad game these days and is a differentiator and it's an option that we haven't got. The one thing I'd say about sort of Kuna, Neto, Belling, I love them to bits, but they're all fairly similar in a way where they like to get the ball, carry, drive. So Sarabia just gives you that bit of nous, that bit of quality, that little...
He's got that through ball cross, hasn't he?
Yeah, that we don't have, and it's all well and good having those players, but somebody's got to get the ball to those players. And I wouldn't sell him from a football perspective, but like I said, if someone comes in with 10, 15 million...
You're doubling your money on a player that's probably not going to be first choice. That's probably had his best behind him. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. I don't think Wolves could afford to let him go without bringing someone else in. Now, if that's someone with a loan to buy, I don't believe Wolves have got much money to spend. And I believe if they are going to spend this window, it'll be because they've had to sell first. So I'd be surprised if that happens. But he's part of a team that's evolving, and this team's evolving and has evolved without a centre forward. So Wolves have almost sort of critiqued themselves now with the way they play. There's a contribution of assists, there's a contribution of goals. This new system just works. So it'll be nice to have an option for a number 9, but we don't need to necessarily go and grab one straight away.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on what Tyler said around Sarabia, I think we've got probably 4 attackers who are all pacey, take a player on, try and get to the byline, try and make things happen. Sometimes you need someone who can just take a step back, put their foot on the ball, and find those players. And for me, Sarabia fits that mould at the moment. I think we need a number 9. I think we need a plan B. We can be one-dimensional, and I think in them games where it's not working, because when you're playing your Lutons and your Sheffield Uniteds and teams like that, they sit very deep, and there's not a lot of space in behind for your pacey players to get any joy. So you need some players with a little bit more of a football IQ who are going to find that pass and just open up a defence as opposed to keep doing the same things. And if you get a decent striker, and I think you give yourself a chance to maybe shake things up. I know a lot of people don't want Danny Ings. He is very injury prone, but he is a finisher. He's a goal scorer and he's an intelligent player. So I think a player in that mould gives us something to work towards. And I think it would be a short-term fix. I mean, we've lost 2 strikers now, and
well, their wages combined probably cover Danny Ings. But as West Ham have had, I think they had 2-3 injuries in that last game, so they're in trouble now. And if any of those players sort of are out for longer, they're going to probably say, "Well, we're going to have to keep you because the options are short."
Yeah, I mean, you would hope we're not putting all our eggs in that basket. I mean, if we've released 2 players with absolutely no plan to replace them, then you'd be asking a few questions, wouldn't you? But I don't think if Danny Ings come to Wolves, he'll be coming on his full wage. I think there'll be a bit of a deal done there. Either we don't pay for the loan and we cover all the wages, or they cover a percentage of the wages to give him first team football and get him out the door. But you would like to think there's other options there. I think it's a short-term fix to get us through to the end of the season when we can have a little bit of a rebuild. We'll probably offload Neto. Max Kilman potentially goes as well. It just depends what we want to do this season. I mean, Europe it's a big ask to get there.
3 points off and we're over halfway through the season.
It's not out of reach at all. It's not out of reach, but it depends if we've got the ambitions to try and do that, or if we're just going to try and cement our spot and go again next year.
The one thing we certainly don't do, Nocky, is weaken. If we keep this squad of players, and as expected, I know Matt Hobbs has said tonight, I think one of the Wolves local journalists mentioned, I can't remember who it was, someone said something about they're in no rush to buy anybody, to have anybody in. So I think someone mentioned that. I'll be surprised if Wolves didn't end the end of January with an additional forward, whether it's a 9 or another forward, I don't know. But I'll be surprised if you're going to let those 2 players go, because all of a sudden then with Wang away, you're 1 or 2 injuries off and you're banging trouble. So
we have weakened, haven't we, as it stands, because we've removed. I mean, I know Fabio hasn't much of an impact.
Well, Sasha's got 2 match-winning goals.
He's got 2 match winners. We're 5 points better off. Well, 4 points better off because of him. So there's an argument.
They weren't in the plans, though, were they? They weren't even close to being in the plans.
My point isn't that they were in the plans. My point is it was an option, and it's one that we used very effectively at Everton and Brentford, and we got points on the back of it. You need to have some resilience there, and if we go out the window with what we've got now, then we have weakened it. So you would hope someone else is going to come in.
But would you? What would you do? Jokes aside, what would you do? We ain't going to get relegated, and let's be honest, we're not going to win the FA Cup. So, what's the benefit? I'm just playing devil's advocate. What's the benefit of? They're not going to spend any money now. So, are you looking at an average run-of-the-mill centre forward that again is going to sit on the bench and come on, maybe?
Quick question. That's why I think the Danny Ings situation.
It makes sense, but then they've had their injuries.
It's a short-term fix, isn't it? But he has his injuries, yeah. But you have him to the end of the season to get you over the line. You go again.
So you boys, I mean, you can put in the comments now. I'd love to see people's opinions. Would you prefer for Che Adams, who goal contributions is better than Danny Ings recently? Danny Ings is definitely the better finisher, but I'd say Che Adams' all-round game is probably getting involved and holding the ball up. Would you prefer Che Adams to come in on loan, or would you prefer Danny Ings? Tyler?
I might sound ridiculous here, but I don't think there's a necessarily rush to get either of them.
But which one would you have if you had to have one?
I'd probably go Danny Ings, because I think if the ball falls in the box, I want him on the end of it. And I think he could just be that plan B, like Knocker says. He's a finisher. And I remember, although I think we drew 1-1 there at Villa last season, he came on for Villa for 20 minutes. And I thought he was excellent, and he can play a bit as well. So I think I'd go Ings over the 2. But I don't think it'll happen now because of Bowen's injury, Antonio's not been fit all season. I just don't see that one happening.
Bowen's had a reoccurrence. Antonio's had a reoccurrence of his injury, a small one. And it looks like Bowen's going to be out for a little while. Nocky, out of those two, who would you take?
It's a toss-up coin, isn't it? I don't think there's a great deal between them, but I've seen Danny Ings hurt us, and I've seen the movement and the finishing.
Yeah.
I've not seen that from Che Adams. I saw him miss from the
goal line. Handball from a yard out.
Yeah, so for me, I think Danny Ings, just because I think he's, with the players we've got and what we've got around him, he's going to get chances at Wolves. So I think he's the better finisher of the two. But I'm with Chris. I don't think he's now an option because I think he'll be pulled back. I can see Che Adams coming in. I think he's the most likely one now. We can pull him up for a relatively low fee. He'll be back in the Premier League, so yeah, he'll be happy to just try and get a few minutes at Wolves and try and get himself a contract next year. So I think that's the most likely out of the two now.
Just one more, sorry, Rod, just one more comment on the transfers, because obviously you see it on Twitter, and we've been arguing, haven't we, us three and Bully Mark, the other guy in our group, this week about transfers. I think Gary O'Neill's earned the right now to say who he wants and who he wants to bring in, and you see a lot of slander around Che Adams, Danny Ings, but Gary O'Neill's now, for me, at that point where if he wants to get a player and he thinks he's going to do well, I'm fully backing him to get that player. We've looked a bit silly in what we've said the last few months. He's in control now, and him and Hobbs, I'd like to think, have got targets, and whoever they bring in, just back them, because he's not daft. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with what he's done and some of the football we've played and some of the results that we've got, I think he does deserve the backing. But equally now, I know this might sound like I'm being under-ambitious, but I don't want to tinker with it too much now. We don't need to go heavy because it's working. This team is evolving. Players are developing. They're improving. Wolves look like they've got goals in them from all over the pitch. So who knows where a cup run will take us? And who knows if 7th is generally an option? Well, if you're 3 points off, or two or 3 points off with over halfway through the season, then it's more of a realistic conversation than relegation is at the moment. And that's not an opinion. That's the facts looking at the league table. That rounds up the transfer rumour mill. Great stuff from Nocky and Tyler there. Moving on to your questions, I'll drop a tweet out on the day before or the same day to get some of your questions. We're getting as many as we can, and then we'll preview the Brentford replay. Previewing Brentford for the 3rd time in a month. Lucky me. Steve Leave. Good evening, Steve. Lee's saw him at Brentford on Friday. As we're effectively safe, do we focus on a cut run or a top 10 finish? For example, if we beat Brentford, do we rest players at Brighton for the next round and then vice versa? Great question. Tyler.
We're not going to win the FA Cup. There's a chance.
You said that twice now.
But we're not, realistically.
Imagine the clips on these, Nocky. We win it and we just get him saying no for the whole shit.
I'll be on it naked by the first one, don't worry. But I still don't feel that we finished top 7 either. So, but we're in a position to have a go. Like Steve says, we're in a position to take the game seriously. And I think Gary proved on Friday night that he is taking the cup seriously because he played his best possible team. He'll know what a Black Country derby means if he gets to that stage. So there's no way he's, messing around with his team with that one. I'd like to think Brighton and Man United. I'd like to think there's 4 points on offer there. I might be being greedy, but I'd want
big call getting a point at Brighton. They were brutal at home, weren't they?
Yeah, but they let goals in every game, Ryan. They've not kept a clean sheet for forever. I want both, really. I want a top 10 finish and I want a bit of a cup run. I might be being greedy, but I don't see why we can't do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should be looking at both. I mean, we can go very strong against Brentford because we've got the gap and, the rest each side of it. Brighton, I'd love to see us go to Brighton and not get spanked. So if we get there and pick up a result, then great.
Yeah, anything on 6-0's an improvement, isn't it?
Yeah, but we've not got. There isn't a huge amount of games for us. We're not in Europe. We just, there's enough for us to have a right good go at both of them, and confidence comes off the back of wins, doesn't it? So if you're winning in the cup, I mean, imagine if we did go to the Hawthorns and win. Yes, they're a championship team, but it's going to give you such a lift, and it's going to give the whole place a lift.
Fan base in the club, yeah.
If you remember the first time we were promoted to the Premier League, it was on the back of beating Newcastle, and we went on a hell of a run that season in the cup, and we married that up with sneaking into the top 6 and getting promoted. So I think winning's a habit, and if we can go into every game trying to win it, which seems to be the intent at the moment, there's no reason we can't look at a cup run and a top 10 finish, because I don't think 3 or 4 of the teams above us are particularly strong. I think we're all very much of a muchness up there, and there's an opportunity for us this year. I think I'm on with Chris. I don't think we'll get into the top 7, but you've got to have ambitions to have a bit of a go at it, and I think we're in a position to do that.
This may sound like a strange thing to say, but hear me out. Actually getting a replay and then getting through fills 2 sort of fixture gaps, because I think when you've not played for 2.5, 3 weeks, you get a little bit stale. And I actually think this replay could have done Wolves a favour to allow them to have some momentum and the players keeping their match fitness up. Now, I know they're fit anyway, but
it's a great point. It's a great point.
Thank you. We saw when we played Brentford a couple of weeks ago that their game against Man City was cancelled. And they were a bit stiff, although they created chances. They were a bit stale, weren't they? But now Wolves have got an opportunity. And with the games aren't that close together, I think that we've got like a Tuesday, a Monday, then it'd be probably a Saturday, then a Thursday. So being in the cup and getting that replay, I think is a good thing for Wolves. Do you see my thinking? Or
I completely agree. I mean, we blew Brentford away, didn't we? Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no, sorry. They're away this week to do the warm weather training. Get back another game Tuesday, and then you've got nearly a week till Brighton, and then another, I think, 5 days till Man U. I'm with you, Ryan. And I've not played professional football, but all I hear about from professionals is they'd just rather keep playing games and ticking over. You don't want 3 games a week as a professional, but 1 a week's perfect, isn't it? So I'm with you, and it'd be nice to see if Boubacar Traoré can get involved. There are still players that you can get involved in those games as well, and I suppose
it depends how long he's at the AFCON for, doesn't it?
Yeah, and sorry, yes, I forgot that. And Bangan ain't Nori. They're not going to be maybe missed as much as we potentially thought because of that. So, I think it's an absolute blessing in a way. You don't want a 2-3 week gap because, Brentford had that against us and they got slapped, didn't they? So.
Absolutely. Steve Lee's question was that good. It's took up about 10 minutes of the show, and we're going to have to move on to Brentford. Steve, good to see you on Friday, and thanks for the great question and being part of the show. Next Tuesday.
Did you be on Friday with that question? Did you sort that out before tonight? Or
yeah, there's no way I'd have come up with that with myself. You know that I can barely get the graphics together. Wolves next Tuesday plays Brentford at Molineux. A game we'd have probably said about 20,000, 22,000. I don't think that'll be far off being a sellout now because of what's on offer. My opinion, reasonable pricing as well. I think if you're a senior and an adult, you can go for 30 quid as a pair. That's just my opinion now, and I've been slaughtered for ticket prices before. But with what's on offer now, it's absolutely massive. Nocky, how are Wolves going to approach that game now? Is it a game too soon for Pedro Neto? Do we go same again?
I think we go same.
If Mario Lamina isn't back, is it Joe Hodge?
I think we go same again. That's going to be your area of concern is going to be in that position in midfield. If
Ellegaard plays centre midfield, if he drops in as an actual centre midfielder.
Yeah, I think he'll go as strong as he can. I don't see any reason he'll rest anyone. I'm not sure I'm starting Neto. I think he's maybe going to have a couple of games as an impact sub. One of the bonuses of this, it takes away one of Gomez's games that he's going to miss, and he gets him back a little bit quicker.
Well, if he progresses, he's back for the 1 year game. Yeah,
I think the midfield's the only concern for me. I mean, we're a little bit short on options now, aren't we? It's going to be Hodge or Bellegarde, most likely. Hodge, you would assume he's probably the most natural replacement, or does he ship around the formation and try and do something a little bit different? I don't know, but I think whatever formation, whatever system or person that he goes for, he's going to go as strong as he possibly can, because we've had a big rest, we've got another rest after it, and it's an opportunity to just keep that momentum going.
Tyler, your tweaks for the game against Brentford?
I think it's time. I don't normally disagree with Knocker, but I think it is time to start Pedro. I think he's ready. You could tell from when he came on, he was ready, wasn't he? He wasn't someone who was coming back into the side a bit gingerly. He looked fit as a fiddle, didn't he? He was ready to go. Mm-hmm. So Neto, Kuna, Sarabia, and I think you're right. Then it's can Bellegarde drop in next to?
Well, he started his career as a centre midfielder. So I know he's quite where the Tommy Doyle then sits in as the holder. And he's got Bellegarde's got a great engine on him. Him and Acuna share the centre midfield duty next to Doyle after Joe
But
Gomez.
Joe Hodge can do that role. He's
Mm.
neat and tidy, isn't he? He can do that role and let Doyle play. So I'll be knocker. I don't expect a lot of changes, but I think as we get to those fixtures, Brighton, West Brom, potentially, and Man U, you want Pedro firing, don't you? So let's try and get him back.
Absolutely. You've been watching episode 85 of the Wolves Report, coming to the end of the show now, and it's prediction time for our 0.21% success ratio from first goal scorer and predictions. Nocky, we'll start this week with you. Tell me how Wolves are getting on again the replay against Brentford.
I think with that draw for the Albion, I think we'll win. I'll go 3-0 Wolves. Cunha with the goal.
Get in there. We'll have some of that, Tyler.
Yeah, I think we'll have enough. I don't think it's of interest to them, is it? So,
No.
2-1, and your man Matt Doherty will be the opener.
Go on, big Matt, off the bench. Strange one. I'm not sure how interested Brentford are going to be. They've got Forest at home on the Saturday. That's a huge game. Brentford are terrible. I think they're bottom of the form table at the moment. They're really sort of getting dragged into a little bit. So they may come to Molyneux full strength. I've got a feeling with Ivan Toney back, they'll be resting up. And hopefully that is the case. And if so, Wolves take advantage. So I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves. And I'm going to go with Jean-Ric Bellegarde. This has been episode 85 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Nocky. Thank you to Tyler. Look forward to seeing you again, hopefully, as Wolves are about to face West Brom in the 4th round of the FA Cup away at the Hawthorns. Drink it in, up the Wolves.